Well, it wasn't so long ago that 500 watt hours was at the upper end of battery capacities on e-mountain bikes. On today's show, we're going to be discussing, is 500 watt hours still enough?
And also we're going to be revisiting that big question, de-restriction. How do you do it on your e-bike?
Now, Ask EMBN is going to be changing from now on. We're moving from a weekly show to a monthly one.
But don't you worry, all your questions are definitely still going to be answered. We're just going to distill the show into the big picture questions that you guys ask us.
So it's business as usual. Get involved in the comments down below. Hashtag Ask EMBN. Now, Linus222 is really worried about de-restriction on his e-mountain bike. Seems all his mates have got de-restricted bikes and are leaving him for dust. He says there seem to be a world of options when it comes to de-restricting. I have 2019 Levo. Chris, I know, has talked about de-restricted bike use. What device have you used? Now, de-restricting is a huge topic. I don't actually de-restrict my bike, but Chris has done. Chris, talk us through the options for a Levo.
Well, I think as each day goes by, it's getting harder and harder by the manufacturers. They're constantly updating the software to make these electronic devices null, so they won't actually work on your e-bike. It'll throw an error code up. The only way you're going to override that is by fitting a mechanical device such as the Planet 3. So this is a planetary gear system, simply slots over the brake rotor. It's got a planetary gear in there with a sun magnet which rotates. Your wheel will rotate 3 times to 1 rotation of the magnet inside, so it's actually tricking the computer to thinking the wheel's going a lot slower, and a device such as that won't actually throw an error code.
Yeah, I think for Linus, there's obviously peer pressure and practicalities here in de-restricting your bike. Why do you restrict your e-bike, Chris?
In the areas I can, you know, sort of private woodland and things like that, it just allows me to do like bigger jumps and go above that 25k limit.
Linus, as I said, it's a huge subject. Check this video out, which we've done, which covers all the topics and politics and legalities surrounding de-restricting your e-mountain bike. If you have private land in the UK compared to maybe forest lands or national park lands, there are different laws for different parts of the country, right, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're riding on private land with no public access, riding a de-restricted e-bike isn't a big deal. You know, I've done it plenty of times myself in the right places, but if you're riding it in the wrong places, it's a delicate area and it isn't going to win any favours, you know, with mountain bikers and e-bikers and horse riders, you name it, out in the woods. Right, Wakeman is asking, how much do you have to spend to get a good e-mountain bike? Well, I think it's what your perception is of mountain biking in the first place, right?
It's honestly a fantastic question. Really good question, this. Yeah, it depends whether you're going to be riding fire roads or really quite technical trails. It depends what your budget is. It depends, you know, what is good is a very relative thing. But I think the basics here are you can either have hub drive e-mountain bikes or mid-drive e-mountain bikes. Now, the mid-drive are more capable when it comes to the more technical, steeper terrain. But having said that, the brands such as Decathlon have bikes which start at around €1,000 on hub drive bikes, and they're really capable. And they've actually got mid-drive bikes now, which are about €1,700. So there's some incredible options out there. So I think, though, bottom line, probably £1,500 for a mid-drive bike is where the really good e-mountain bikes start, would you say?
Definitely, I think that's
still a lot of money.
Yeah.
Still a lot of money, but yeah, I think
good
that's
way to get into it.
Yeah.
And we've done a video all about this actually, mid-drive versus hub drives. Check this one out.
Here then are 3 typical examples of entry-level e-bikes. Starting off with the Cyclomatic, the supermarket bike with rear hub drive, about £500. The slightly more expensive Focus, also with rear hub drive, around about £1,500. And then the high bike with the mid-drive motor from £1,500 onwards. So what is the difference then between a hub drive and a mid-drive? Well, the hub drive is located either in the front or rear of the bike, whereas the mid-drive is located centrally. Now, there's going to be a difference in weight distribution between the hub drives and the mid-drives, and the mid-drive has a more centralised balance feel to it.
Fire 2. Are Michelin due to release their E-Wild Enduro tyres in 29-inch anytime soon? I don't know the answer to that.
No, unfortunately they're only available in 27.5 at the minute, but I'm sure Michelin will be ahead of the curve and be working on a 29-inch version of that. If not, you can just use the standard wild tyres, which are available in 29-inch, and not E-specific, but they will do an amazing job if you want to pair them up.
We actually did a pro bike on Nico Quer's Giant recently, which had those Michelin tyres on it.
They do look good.
Steve Thompson, at some point whilst riding a bike, you are likely to have some sort of mechanical problem. Of course, you can't carry a bike repair book. Absolutely not. So the next best thing is to have a bike repair app on your phone. What do you suggest?
Well, there's a few actual apps out there, but I think one of the best things you could probably do is do a lot of research on the videos that we do here on EMBN. We tackle a lot of those common e-bike problems, as do our sister channels, GMBN Tech and GMBN themselves. There's a load of trailside repair stuff that should get you up to speed. So get on your phone and learn all that stuff.
Chris is red hot when it comes to stuff like that. Reinhard Van Wyck, what's the perfect tyre pressure?
That's a question with so many different variables, isn't there?
What's your weight? What's your weight, Reinhard? What kind of tyres have you got? What type of riding are you doing? Whew. But do you know what? I usually put about 30 psi in mine.
I think low, on an e-bike is definitely, do you think about 20 psi?
I'm 90 kilos. I put about 30 psi in there. I normally ride softer compound tyres with heavy casing. The type of tyres I usually use are probably around about 1,200 grams. So if you've got a tyre that weight, you can go for that type of tyre pressure. If you go for skinny tyres, you need to be really careful. Obviously, it depends on the type of terrain you're going to be riding. But the skinnier the tyre and the heavier your weight, the more pressure you're going to have to put in that tyre.
Yeah, and I think also tubed and tubeless makes a massive difference to how a tyre rides.
4 psi?
Yeah, I think a low pressure, for e-bike use is probably about 20 psi. You can go slightly lower if you're a lighter rider and you want more grip. And I think high pressure, for some of the big jumps and stuff I do, I run sort of 40 psi in the tyres. Now that is super hard.
How much do you weigh, Chris?
200 pounds.
Oh, here we go.
200 pounds. But that's obviously on big jumps. You just don't want the tyres deforming with the weight of me and the e-bike on those big jumps. But I think for general trail use, around sort of 30 psi.
Reinhard, can you do us a massive favour? Can you actually send us another message and tell us what type of tyres you've got? And I think we can answer this question far more accurately. If you put in your weight as well and the type of bike you got, we can actually pin this down to the right tyre pressure for you. Al Randall is asking about demisting his glasses. The problem is glasses steam up on steep uphill sections. I can tolerate the extra heat discomfort, but not being able to see where you're going is my main issue. Any tips? When I used to go to the swimming pool, I used to spit in my goggles. Did you used to do that?
Oh, lovely.
I did. I used to spit in my goggles. Yeah. Everyone used to do it when I was a kid. And then it's to stop the goggles from misting up.
Well, there is a nice little hack, actually, if you're suffering from steamed up goggles or glasses on a ride. You can actually get a little bit of fairy washing up liquid and just lightly put that on the inside.
Is that
of the
a hack
lens.
or is that just common sense?
Common knowledge, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also there's loads of commercially available sprays, that motocross riders, guys like that use for goggles and things like that. So maybe try that if the washing up liquid doesn't work.
But yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem with glasses and goggles, this especially in humid conditions, especially in wet conditions. Yeah. It's a pain in the neck, isn't it?
Yeah, Harry Ledson, he's asking, how many miles can you get out of a full charge? Now, this is another one of those never-ending questions, I suppose. There's so many different variables, 500 watt-hours, 700 watt-hour batteries, they're all different. Where you're riding, the temperature, your rider weight, your fitness, tyre choice.
Yeah, you name it. What's interesting, Harry, is that two brands. If you go on the Specialized website, you can see there's a range calculator on there. Also, if you've got a Bosch motor, if you go onto the Bosch website, there's a range finder on there too, and it's actually quite accurate.
Pocket Farmer, he is asking, are e-bikes electric mopeds, and should they be under the same laws as other powered vehicles? Just a question.
Ooh, it's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very straightforward though, Chris. It's all about definition here, and I think an electric moped is one where you simply twist the throttle and it goes, whereas the bikes that we ride, the e-mounted bikes we ride, are pedal assist. No pedaling, no go, right?
Exactly, and they're all limited as well. I think the speed is a big thing. E-mountain bike is limited to 25 kilometers an hour or 32 kilometers an hour, depending on where you live, obviously, but that is a big thing, the big difference between a moped and an e-mountain bike, for sure. We did exactly that same test.
We have done it. E-moto versus e-mountain bike.
E-motos are a very different brute to the e-mountain bike. They are throttle assisted, often more than double the weight of a standard e-mountain bike. They come with pedals, which kind of make it look like a bike. They're awesome fun with loads of power, all at the simple push of a button. Top speeds of 70 to 100 kilometers an hour plus are all attainable. They can be made street legal, and some even have regenerative braking. Oh, and they can do things that might end you up in trouble. An e-mountain bike is a sophisticated beast with a 250 watt motor that assists you only when you pedal. They have different assist modes from eco to boost mode, weighing in around 20 to 25 kilos with a battery that can also be easily removed. They are restricted to 25 kilometers an hour or 32 kilometers per hour, depending on which country you live in. Above that restriction is down to human power alone. They definitely pack a powerful punch, but in a more conventional package.
So the big question, is 500 watt hours enough on an E-mounted bike? Well, I think it is. I mean, in the summer I did a Tour of Mont Blanc. Now, a lot of riders there were using 500 watt hour batteries. We were doing about 6,000 meters of climbing a day, 120 kilometers a day. And obviously, you're not going to do it on one battery, but what the pros were doing, they had another battery in their backpack and they had a lunch stop, and they were doing those kind of distances, on 4 500 watt hour batteries. So they are enough. It just depends on how you use it. Now, if you've got one 500 watt hour battery, an earlier question asked, what's the range that you get out of a 500 watt hours? And like I said, Bosch and Specialized give you that rangefinder. It depends on the type of riding you're doing. It depends on the mode you're riding in. It depends on the tyres you're choosing. And I think they're enough. I quite like the fact that you can carry a spare one in your backpack.
Yeah, I think definitely if your budget allows, sticking an extra 500 watt hour battery in your backpack, it's going to make an amazing day out. I think I've done big rides. Well, I've done one video, I think we did 100k just on one battery, but that was an absolute stretch. I was riding an eco and it was a struggle, but I stuck 2 batteries in, did the same ride, and I was able to do 100k with those 2 batteries in all modes, turbo, boost, you name it. It was a hell of a day out.
And Chris has done a video on just that, so have a look at his fun day in the hills.
Okay, so we just hit 34 miles bang on. The Shimano display is saying 56.9 as well, so a bit of a difference there as well, and the battery is totally gone flat, so it's time to swap the battery out. Now, if you are out and about riding on these rides and riding with a spare battery in your backpack like I am today, it is absolutely vital not to forget these. You forget these, as I have done, you will not be getting your battery out of your bike to put your fresh one in. If you forget your key, it's a game over, obviously, unless you've got a other way of getting it out, like an Allen key bolt or something like that. But she's gone flat, so it's time to stick fresh one in.
So that's it for the weekly Ask EMBNs. We're now transitioning to the monthly show where we're going to be hitting the big picture questions, the big hitting questions. Don't forget, you guys still need to get involved in those comments down below to get on that monthly show.
Yeah, meanwhile, if you want to stick around and check out another video, 100k the fun way, where I rode 2 500 watt hour batteries for an epic day out, check this one out. Don't forget to subscribe to eMBN by clicking the globe in the middle of the screen. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And we shall see you next month.
We will see you in December for the first of the big Ask questions.